Hi friends, today we'll see another Spanish lessons review, okay? So do you remember how we say review in Spanish, right? We saw it in the last lesson, it's repaso. Repaso, okay? This is the Spanish word for review. Repaso de clases is lessons review. Okay, then I will ask you some questions. How do you say something in Spanish? And I will just give you some few seconds for you to think it over, right? And then I will write it down. And that way I will be forcing you a little bit to try, remember, and form the structures of sentences in Spanish, okay? So, how would we say then, tomorrow I will go to Juan's home, okay? Juan is John in Spanish, okay? Tomorrow I will go to Juan's home, or to the home of Juan, okay? So, in Spanish the word for tomorrow is mañana, right? Mañana, which actually is the same word we use for morning. Mañana means tomorrow and mañana means morning as well. So, mañana I will go to Juan's home. Mañana voy a ir, right? I will go. Voy a ir a la casa de Juan, right? So, mañana voy a ir a la casa de Juan means tomorrow I will go to the house or to the home of Juan, okay? So in Spanish there is not a difference between the word house and home, right? Actually there is a word for home in Spanish which is hogar, right? But we do not use it in this kind of sentence. When we say, I'm going to somebody's home, or this is my home, right? We use the word casa in Spanish, the same word for house, right? So it's a bit easier than in English in that sense, because you don't have to think, okay, when shall I use the word house or the word home, right? In Spanish we use the word casa. Okay, there is another way for saying this in the future. Do you remember? It is, instead of saying voy a ir, which would be I am going to go, right? We can use the verb to go in simple future, which is iré. Mañana iré a la casa de Juan, right? And how would we say this same sentence, but instead of tomorrow, yesterday? Yesterday, right? So we have to say the same thing in simple past, right? For yesterday. So how will this be? Which is the word for yesterday in Spanish? It is ayer. Right? Ayer. Now, how do we say to go but in simple past? Ayer fui. Right? Now the predicate is the same. A la casa de Juan. Right? And of course we are omitting the subject pronoun or the subject, right? Because in Spanish that's fine. As far as we have a verb, we can omit the subject, right? So we can explicitly say the subject I, right? We can say ayer yo fui a la casa de Juan. But since we do not need it, we usually do not say yo, right? Now, let's say that I have to go to Juan's home, right? Do you remember? We use I have to is, okay, we can omit the subject pronoun yo, right? Yo tengo que ir, right? Which means I have to go, okay? And then we would say a la casa de Juan, okay? And if we can say now, for example, I'm going to have dinner with Jenny. I am going to have dinner with Jenny. Okay? Then we will say, or I will have dinner with Jenny. Remember, we do not need to use yo, right? The subject pronoun. Voy a, and remember, to have dinner, there is a verb in Spanish to have dinner, right? Which is the verb cenar. Cenar con, which means with, Jenny, right? So this means I will have dinner. Cenar means to have dinner actually with Jenny. Cenar, remember, is a verb that derives from the word cena, which means dinner, right? Cena. We add an R and now we have the verb to have dinner, right? Remember, same thing with almuerzo. Almuerzo, which means lunch, but the verb to have lunch is almorzar, right? See that it is not almuerzar, it is almorzar. We change the UE for an O, right? Almorzar. So, now, if we want to say, it is too late, I will go to bed. It is too late, I will go to bed, we will say. How do we say it is too late? Remember that in Spanish we do not translate the subject pronoun it, right? So we just use the verb is too late, okay? So it is too late, we would say es for it is, yes? The word for too would be demasiado. Demasiado tarde. Tarde means late. I'm going to bed, right? Me voy a la cama. Me voy a la cama. This literally means I am going to bed. Remember that in Spanish, when we say I am going to bed, we do not say voy a la cama, which literally would be I go to bed. We say me voy a la cama, which would literally mean I am going myself to the bed, right? Because we use the reflexive form of the verb to go, which is ir. Ir is the verb to go, and this is the reflexive form, irse. Do you remember when we conjugated the verbs in the reflexive form, right? Me voy a la cama would be then I am going to bed. Me voy a la cama, to the bed. We can also say this. Me voy a acostar. Right? This is the other usual way for saying the same thing. Me voy a acostar, which literally means I am going to lie myself down, right? Or to lie myself. Acostar means to lie down something, right? Me voy a acostar means I'm going to lie down myself instead of something, right? So the verb here would be acostarse, another reflexive verb. Acostarse, right? So you can see how many verbs, when they are applied to oneself, right? When oneself is the object of the action, right? The recipient or the destinary of the action of the verb, many times the verbs need to be used in the reflexive